Please tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Marilyn Knight. I teach English, mostly creative writing, sometimes literature, and often composition courses at USC Upstate.
Okay. How does your work involve writing in digital environments?
Well, I really like my classes to be more digital, and I've been working on that a little bit. But actually, for the most part, I'm very old-fashioned, and we use hard copy in my classes. This is because not everybody has a laptop, and when we project the work on up on the screen, then everybody has to turn to look at it, and that sort of we sort of lose that sense of community we have from sitting in a circle, and I really think that's valuable. So until we get to the point that everybody in class can have a laptop, and I've talked to Dr. Castor about maybe purchasing a few like iPads or small laptops, so that we could have those as loaners. And if everybody had access to that kind of thing, then we could maybe go paperless. But that's still a little bit in the future, I think.
Do you have any published works? If so, what are they?
Well, I have a novel called Baby Doll. I have published a couple of poems, although I wouldn't consider myself a poet really. A nonfiction piece in an online journal called Brevity. Most recently, I had a short story published in the a Hub City anthology called Expecting Goodness. And I've also published a few academic articles.
They made a film out of your Expecting Goodness, didn't they?
Well, films were made last year of some of the stories in Expecting Goodness, and they're doing that again this year. Unfortunately, I did not submit the paperwork to let them consider my story, but Joe from the class that I just taught submitted a story, and his was chosen, and a film's going to be made. So it's pretty exciting.
Wow! Congrats.
I compose a first draft. I do it with pen and paper.
Not many people do that anymore.
No, I'm a real
very
throwback.
rare.
But I'm a one-finger typist. I'm very slow. In high school, I made pretty good grades, except in typing. And in my typing class, people who behaved but couldn't type got a D. People who misbehaved and couldn't type got an F. So I got a D because I was well behaved. But I never learned to type really. So I'm slow. And I can write by hand so much faster. And when ideas are flowing, you need to get it down, go fast, and it just feels, paper and pen just feels so much more natural and organic, which I guess people long ago could say about papyrus and writing with reeds. So but yeah, I want paper. I want certain kinds of paper and certain pens. But yeah, that's what I do.
You ever thought about going back and taking typing classes, or are you comfortable with the way everything is now?
I really like to do the first draft with pen and paper, and then when I do, use a computer and do a copy that way, it's part of the revising process. So I do revisions as I move it from paper, and to me, I know this is some weird psychological thing, but while it's still just in a notebook, I'm not committed. When I somehow type it into a computer and it's there and downloaded, it's more of a commitment somehow to me. So it's more real. I don't know.
I like that. Okay, next question. How has the new technology affected your line of work over the years?
Well, kind of on a personal level, not that much, although, there are lots of agents and editors and so forth, that you can, just send your work by email. A few people still, they're throwbacks and they don't want you to do that. But it's a lot easier to submit work, and you hear hear from people more quickly and that sort of thing. And, there's, online publishing. And like I said, the one nonfiction piece that I've had published is an online journal. And just on a personal level, I was very anti-Kindle, anti-Nook. But then I got a Kindle as a gift, and I'm madly in love with it. It's just the most fabulous thing ever. And, if you look behind me, you see all these books. My house is much worse. And you can't throw away a book. I can't throw away a book. And I can give away books, and I can donate books, but I still, the books just proliferate. So, the Kindle's really neat in that, I can get books, and I don't add to the clutter, which is pretty nice. Plus, I don't know, I can carry 3 books to the beach with me,
And it's instant.
It's instant, and you can buy a book instantly, like at 2 a.m. It's amazing.
How have you adapted to technological changes? Is there any specific story you can share that illustrates this?
I don't know. I mean, it's been really gradual. And like I said, I'm still kind of, old-fashioned about these things in a lot of ways. But, it's just really, the convenience of a word processor is just kind of amazing. Because I do remember the days when, to make your work professional, you had to type it. You could never, not in my lifetime, submit anything handwritten. And a typewriter is just, because I'm a terrible typist, that was a nightmare, you make one mistake and the whole page has to be thrown away. And you can do corrections, but if you're going to submit your work to be considered for publication, you want it to be really nice, really clean, and that was awful. I had to pay people to type things for me. Or, if somebody really owed me a favor, would you type this,
Do you think that you will ever go fully digital as the years go on?
No.
Why?
Too late.
It's too late.
Yeah. To sit down and compose at a computer, it just feels very sterile and foreign to me. And yet, as I was just saying, I recognize the extreme convenience, and, that you can, it makes revision so nice because you can save a copy as it is and then go to another copy and make big changes, and you don't lose anything. And that's always, I used to have all these boxes of paper under my bed because I didn't want to throw anything away because I might change my mind. I might go back to that, And a computer makes all that so easy and convenient.
What tools and technical skills do you use most often in your work? Could you tell me a story about a situation in which those tools and skills are most useful?
Well, as I said, I don't really... It's not that I use that kind of thing so much, but... I sort of came to use computers and email and the internet while I was in graduate school. And it was, there was like 10 years between my undergraduate and graduate years. And things changed hugely, in those years. And I can remember that one teacher, when I was doing my master's, and we didn't have computers, and teachers did not have computers in their offices. Students certainly didn't. But there was a computer lab in our building. And he made us all go down there and learn how to do email. And the thing is, it seemed really complicated. And I think it was a lot more complicated than it is now. But, as time's gone on, it's all gotten so much easier. But we were all kind of horrified and intimidated that we had to go down there and use those computers. And this was, I guess this would have been about 89, 90 maybe. But, over the next 5 years, I totally learned how to do all that. And in fact, I was the research assistant for one of the professors at Clemson, and that's when they were putting computers and word processors in every, not instructors, which is what I, became, but the tenured and tenure track people got computers, and he had no idea how to use it. So, my job, what he wanted me to do for him was to sit at his computer while he read the directions, and we figured out how to use that thing. And it took us days, It took us hours just to set up everything, and then it just took us days to figure out how to use it. But that's how I basically learned to use a computer. And also, when I was in graduate school, Clemson went from a card catalog to completely digital, and totally freaked me out. The thing is, I already knew where all of the books on English were in the library, and I knew how they were organized, and so I would just sort of skip the whole thing and just go find what I wanted, which was crazy. I don't know what I would do to one of my students who behaved that way. And I look back and think, oh my God, I was so resistant.
Since you said a computer makes things easier with regards to saving and editing, and since you're mainly old school, has there ever been an instance where you wish you had a used computer?
No, and I think there are times when, not so much myself, but I've seen times when my students, Amanda lost her story.
She did?
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I have it written on paper in a box under my bed, I can drag that out. But if my computer malfunctions, it's gone. It can be just totally gone. So, that's never actually happened to me. But like I said, I've seen it happen to my students a few times.
Let's see. Are there any previous jobs that you have attained that involved writing in digital environments?
No, not really, because my jobs before this were, law enforcement. And, maybe they have like little pads or something now. But, at the time you wrote your arrest report pretty much on the scene. If it was something big time, you might come back to the station and write it. But those were always handwritten. Like I said, maybe, probably now they have some, I hope they do. But, yeah, and then I worked, my other career was in medical technology, which became more and more computerized. Instead of doing everything sort of by hand, it's like you type in information and it spits out a barcode, and the machine spits out a barcode. You stick it on the blood sample and put it in a rack and push a button, and so the computer kind of does it for you. But there was no. Then the computer prints out your results, so there's no real writing at all in that.
What made you choose to switch from law enforcement to creative writing?
Well, I actually had a degree. I had a bachelor's degree in English before I went into law enforcement. And in fact, when people say to me, why in the world did you do that? I always say, I read too many Joseph Lombard novels. I mean, I think it was sort of that creative, imaginative part of my personality that sort of like made me go in that direction, because it sounded romantic and exciting, and and it wasn't. Well, sometimes it was a little too exciting, but yeah.
What is the most interesting thing you have experienced or wrote about in your lines of work?
Oh, I mean, there were a lot of things when I was a cop. Although most of my incident reports were about the guy who was drunk and exposing himself and freaking out the public, and the thing is, from my point of view, he's one of my regular drunks. I know the guy. He's harmless. He gets drunk and he's in love with all women, and he demonstrates this in a graphic way. But I will say, when I was a cop, everybody was always very impressed with my arrest reports. They're like, you write fabulous arrest reports. I was like, I was an English major. I mean, come on.
What types of social media do you find to be the most effective?
Oh my God. I don't pay much attention to that kind of thing, you know? I mean, I finally, got a Facebook account, which is nice. But, most of that sort of thing, it's really nice in some ways, I have friends who've had feuds on Facebook, and I'm always afraid, I'll do something on Facebook that will offend somebody or upset somebody. It's like, I just want to look at your pictures, I just want to say hi, how you doing? I don't know. I think a lot of things, email, Facebook, these other kinds of social media, I think, and here again, I sound like such a Luddite, but it takes a little of the human component out, the nuances of communication, so that, when I'm face to face with you and we talk, I can tell if you're upset with me or I've said something wrong, and I can quickly say, oh, that's not what I meant, I don't know. But if I post something on Facebook and people are upset with me, it's like, oh my God, that's not what I meant, but then it's too hard to fix it. So, and people, I don't do Twitter, but people who put out tweets that, everybody goes crazy for, it's like, they probably didn't mean that. So I don't know. I think, it takes a lot of the complexity out of communication. And of course, I love the complexity in writing, in fiction, and creative nonfiction, and poetry, that kind of thing. That's what an English major studies and looks for and thinks about. And so these kind of things are almost antithetical to me, with that way of thinking. Even though they're lots of fun, and I'm very happy on my birthday when, all my Facebook friends tell me happy birthday, and I was like, that's so cool, So, yeah.
Would you ever consider getting a Twitter account?
No, because what I have to say is novel length. I cannot fit what I have to say into X number of characters. What is it, 120?
140?
140. No, I have nothing to say in that. If I'm going to do 140, if I'm going to limit myself, I'll just do a haiku, Just,
tweet everything in the haiku.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Okay. What do you view to be the most significant disadvantages to using new technology?
Oh. Well, even though, as I said, I can be, a throwback about these things, I understand that the advantages so outweigh the disadvantages. From an academic point of view, research is just so much easier. And of course, research at a high level, people who are accustomed to it, that's one thing. Now, teaching freshmen how to do research, there's so much out there, what you have to learn how to do is separate the good stuff from the not so good stuff. But, for people, upper level English majors, people in graduate school, college professors, the research now is so incredibly much easier, and there's so much more available. And of course, to me, the flip side is sometimes there's so much available, it's hard to sift through it. There's so much good stuff available, but you can research anything. I'm quite in love with WebMD.
What advice would you have for someone who is still completing their college education and wants to eventually do the kind of work that you do?
Read. If you want to be a writer, you have to read. And it's okay with me if you do it on your iPad or your Kindle or whatever. I won't hold you to paper and, book covers. But, of course you have to live. You have to, experience life and so forth. But, and all kinds of stimuli are great for a writer. Everything from taking a walk to going to a movie to, everything you do can be fodder for your writing. But I think I think most writers, I mean, you take a lot of your material from your life and from the lives of people around you, but you have to read for so many reasons. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. You can model on writers that you admire and enjoy, and also, if you want to write in a specific genre, as you do, you have to read in that genre. You have to know what's out there. For one thing, it lets you know if your work is original, if it's fresh. Because if not, writers who don't read very much, they're the ones who end their stories with, and it was all a dream, and he woke up. And those of us who read a lot go like, wait a minute, that's been done. Or, it was a dark and stormy night. It's like...
Or Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time can still kind of work almost, I think, because that's just sort of, it's sort of like that. And this is what happened. I mean, that's the way stories always start. But yeah, I think people who want to be writers who don't read, I don't know. For one thing, why do you even want to write? Because it's reading that makes me want to write. Because something I just think is fabulous, it inspires me. And I think for a lot of writers, it's you read something that's like not so great, and you go, my God, I could do better than that.
With technology these days, all the information you need is at your fingertips. Do you wish you had all of it in your day?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a student, I could have learned more, because I could have gotten my hands on more material more quickly, more easily. I mean, I don't see anything noble about a struggle, that's not necessary. So, yeah, if I've been able to do, for my senior seminar as an English major, here, if I had had a computer and, that kind of access, oh my God, yeah, it would have been fantastic.
Last question. In your opinion, which do you prefer, the new or the old school methods of writing?
Oh, I think writing is just writing. It doesn't matter what tools you use. Like, I mean, once upon a time, like I said, people are scratching it out, in the dirt, I guess, or, it's oral. I mean, originally, I guess that's not writing, but storytelling, it was an oral tradition. And so I think storytelling is always the same, how we get it across, whether, I think books on tape are great. I love to listen to them in the car.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. That was interesting.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.